Picture this. You're walking through a massive warehouse, or maybe a stockroom, right? And it is absolutely packed to the ceiling.
Oh, yeah. Wall-to-wall boxes.
Exactly, wall to wall. Pallets are stacked ridiculously high, shelves are just overflowing, the aisles are practically bursting with physical product. And you look around at all of this stuff and you probably think to yourself, wow, business must be booming.
Right, because it looks like success.
Yeah, it looks like abundance, like they are moving serious volume. But what if those packed shelves are actually like a giant red flag?
The ultimate optical illusion.
Right. What if instead of looking at a booming business, you're actually looking at a business that is slowly, quietly bleeding cash? So today we are doing a deep dive into this hidden crisis of overstock. Specifically, we're looking at how it is quietly suffocating distributors in South Africa.
Which is such a fascinating and stressful environment to look at right now.
It really is.
Yeah.
And we'll also get into how new hyperlocal data systems are kind of swooping in to fix it. We're pulling from a really great breakdown called Optimizing Inventory, Solving the South African Overstock Crisis. Our mission here is to uncover why businesses accidentally lock up their own cash, in unsold goods, and how they can finally stop doing it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to state right up front, inventory sounds like such a dry, dusty accounting term.
Oh,
right?
totally. Eyes glaze over immediately.
Exactly. But it is the absolute lifeblood of any physical product business. And when it goes wrong, it is incredibly toxic. Like you said, that packed warehouse.
Yeah.
What you are actually seeing is the visual manifestation of a massive psychological tension.
A psychological tension, like between the owner and the market.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
It's this constant, exhausting battle between a business owner's terrifying fear of running out of stuff
Right.
and the brutal economic reality of holding on to obsolete products.
Yeah.
You see boxes, but you should really be seeing stacks of trapped money.
Trapped money. Wow. And what's wild is how this actually happens on a day-to-day basis because, you'd think in the modern era, these massive purchasing decisions would be calculated to the decimal point by like supercomputers or advanced AI.
You would think so, yeah.
But a lot of the research we are diving into shows that it's heavily driven by gut feelings. It's driven by fear. Business owners are making these massive financial commitments based on outdated spreadsheets, or even worse, literally frantic WhatsApp messages from a sales rep out in the field.
The WhatsApp ordering, it's chaos. But, the sheer humanity of that error is what really stands out to me in the sources.
What do you mean by the humanity of it?
Well, it isn't malicious.
Yeah.
Right? It isn't even necessarily negligent on the owner's part. It's just a primal survival instinct translated into business operations. Think about it. If a customer asks you for a product and you don't have it, you lose the sale.
Right. You lose the revenue. The customer might go to your competitor.
Exactly. So your brain immediately panics and says, order more, order lots of it just to be safe. But human intuition is fundamentally terrible at calculating complex, multivariable math over long periods of time.
Yeah, we just aren't wired for that.
We aren't.
Yeah.
We can't process fluctuating demand and lead times simultaneously in our heads.
Right.
And when you drop that human limitation into the South African context, specifically relying on your gut instinct isn't just risky, it's a recipe for absolute disaster.
Oh, yeah. The environment there right now creates this perfect storm that just amplifies every single miscalculation. Like you have load shedding, right?
It is huge.
These daily scheduled rolling blackouts across the country. And the sources point out that it doesn't just mean the lights are off. It completely scrambles foot traffic, production schedules.
Yeah.
Even the times when people actually buy things shifts dramatically. Predictability just goes right out the window.
It does. And then, add to that the highly volatile exchange rates. If a distributor is importing goods, a fluctuating currency means their costs are constantly moving targets.
So a product that was like highly profitable to import on Tuesday
Might become an absolute margin killer by Thursday.
Exactly.
Exactly. Then layer on the incredibly tight cash flow that most small to medium enterprises operate under.
Right. There isn't a lot of buffer.
None. When money is that tight, ordering the wrong quantity at the wrong time doesn't just dent your profits at the end of the quarter. It can literally cripple the entire operation within weeks.
Okay, let's unpack this for the listener because it's like going grocery shopping while you're absolutely starving.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Your gut is taking over. So you are running down the aisles, filling your cart to the brim with all these highly perishable foods because your brain is just screaming about scarcity. You get home, you load up the fridge, and you feel really secure because the fridge is full.
We survived the famine.
Exactly. But then reality hits. You realize you spent all your available cash and you have like nothing left to pay your rent. And to make matters worse, half that food goes bad and gets thrown in the trash before you can even eat it.
Yeah, that captures the cascading nature of the failure perfectly. You acted on immediate fear, the hunger, without calculating the long-term carrying capacity of your fridge or, the reality of your broader budget.
It's a short-term fix that creates a long-term crisis.
Exactly. And in a business setting, that spoiled food represents a catastrophic ripple effect. First, your cash is locked up in physical items, meaning you can't use it for vital operations like payroll or marketing.
You're cash poor, but product rich.
Right. Then your storage costs physically rise because you're paying for warehouse square footage to house products that are just sitting there collecting dust. Every day a box sits on a shelf, it is literally costing you money.
And then comes the obsolescence, right? Just like the perishables in the fridge, products expire. Or they go out of season.
Or they just become technologically irrelevant, especially in hardware or electronics. A newer version comes out, and suddenly the value of your entire inventory drops to nearly zero.
Wow. So to avoid a total loss, these businesses are forced into these panic-driven massive markdowns.
Yeah, fire sales.
They slash prices just to clear the physical space, which completely obliterates any profit margin they originally hoped for.
And you know the most tragic part of that entire ripple effect is?
What?
The opportunity cost. Because all your working capital is tied up in these slow-moving, obsolete boxes, you physically cannot afford to buy the fast-moving stock that your customers actually want right now.
Oh, man. So the market is screaming for product A, but all your money is trapped inside boxes of product B.
Exactly. It's a vicious cycle of stress and guesswork every single time a purchase order needs to be placed.
But this cascading failure, it doesn't just happen in the abstract. Like, the source text gives us a really concrete example of a typical hardware distributor in Johannesburg.
Yes, the hardware store example is perfect.
They are managing maybe 40 different product lines, which is a massive amount of moving parts. And their current strategy, like a lot of places, is to sit down every month, look at what sold last month, consult with their sales rep, and place their orders based on that historical data.
Which is where the entire system breaks down. And the true friction of this problem becomes really visible.
Okay, wait, hold on. I have to push back on this premise a little bit.
Sure.
Looking at last month's sales data is like standard business practice globally. Every Business 101 class teaches you to look at historical data to project future needs. Why is the source suddenly calling this a fatal flaw? Shouldn't history be a highly reliable indicator? I mean, if I sold 100 steel bolts in April, it stands to reason I'll sell roughly 100 in May, right?
It sounds logical, yes.
Yeah.
But the fatal flaw is what we can call rearview mirror management.
Rearview mirror management.
Yeah. You are trying to drive a car forward at 80 miles an hour by only looking at where you've been. Yes, historical data is a baseline, but human guessing, manual counting, and even the really well-intentioned advice of a sales rep simply cannot keep pace with real-world sales velocity in a volatile market.
Because things are changing too fast.
Exactly. The speed at which things are leaving the shelf right now, today, is the only metric that matters. Last month's data is dead data. It doesn't account for a sudden spike in demand this week or a sudden drop-off yesterday. When you are managing 40 product lines, those variables are shifting constantly.
And that leads to the specific nightmare this Johannesburg hardware owner experiences in the case study. They are spending hours and hours every single week, usually on a Friday afternoon, which is just cruel.
The worst time.
Just trying to reconcile manual stock counts with their sales records. They're literally walking through the aisles, physically counting boxes, and trying to match that physical reality to the numbers on a WhatsApp chat or like an old Excel spreadsheet.
It is the absolute definition of operational friction. Think about the psychological toll that takes on a business owner.
I'd be pulling my hair out.
Right. Friday afternoon is when you need to be strategizing for the next week or, actually winding down and going home. Not stressing out because the physical bolts in the warehouse don't match the numbers on your screen. But the real tragedy isn't just the lost Friday afternoon. It's the timing of the discovery itself.
Because if you only find out you have an overstock problem at month end, the cash is already gone.
Way too late, exactly. If you discover a problem during a manual reconciliation on a Friday, the damage is already done. You cannot unorder the stock. The supplier already has your money, and you have a mountain of product you don't need.
That's rough.
It seamlessly highlights why the entire paradigm needs to shift from reactive, historical guessing to proactive, live data solutions. You just cannot manage a modern supply chain by looking backward.
And this is exactly why local tech platforms are popping up to fix this. The text highlights one specifically called One FinForce. And what is so compelling about this to me is that it isn't some generic, bloated Silicon Valley software designed for, massive multinational corporations.
Right, it's hyperlocal.
Yeah. It's built specifically for South African distributors, wholesalers, and importers. It's designed to replace the absolute chaos of WhatsApp ordering and the guesswork of those old spreadsheets with something called a live reorder forecast.
And this is where we transition from the poison to the cure. The mechanics of how a system like One FinForce achieves this are what really stand out in the text. It isn't magic. It is rigorous, continuous mathematics applied to physical inventory.
So how does it actually break away from that rearview mirror trap? Because the shift from counting physical boxes to algorithmic forecasting sounds great in theory, but what is it actually tracking under the hood?
Okay, so first, it fundamentally changes the primary metric. It tracks average daily sales per product in real time.
Okay.
Not last month's bulk numbers, not a quarterly average, but the actual living daily pace. Second, it shifts the entire concept of inventory from quantity to time.
From quantity to time, what does that mean?
It calculates exactly how many days of stock you have left based on that current sales pace. Think about it. Having 100 items is a meaningless number on its own.
Right, because you don't know how fast they're selling.
Exactly. But knowing you have exactly 4 days of stock left, that is a highly actionable piece of data.
That is a massive conceptual shift. You aren't managing items anymore. You are managing time.
Precisely. But the third mechanic is the most crucial one. It dynamically factors in supplier lead time.
Oh, lead time, the hidden killer.
It really is.
It's that huge gap, the time between saying, I need this to your supplier, and actually having the physical box in your hands to sell to your customer.
Right. And if your supplier takes 7 days to deliver, a manual spreadsheet or a gut feeling might not flag a problem until you are down to, say, 2 days of stock on the shelf.
And by then you're doomed.
Mathematically impossible to avoid a stockout. You will have 5 days where you have literally nothing to sell while you wait for the truck to arrive. A live system accounts for that 7-day gap dynamically. It then tells you the exact date you need to reorder. It will explicitly flag reorder today or reorder in 3 days. And finally, it suggests the exact quantity to order based on how many months of supply your specific business strategy dictates and instantly calculates the estimated cash cost.
Let's actually run the numbers on this because the math is really fascinating when you see it applied to a real-world scenario from the source. Let's take a specific product, say a Hexnut M10.
Okay, classic hardware item.
Right. So in the old system, the owner walks the aisle on Friday, looks at the shelf, sees a half-empty box of nuts, and thinks, yeah, looks like enough for now. But the algorithm sees something completely different.
Let's walk through the algorithm's view because this is where the magic happens.
So the system sees that the Hexnut M10 is selling at a velocity of exactly 1.1 units per day right now. It knows you have exactly 3 days of stock left on the shelf.
Yeah, okay.
It also knows that your supplier has a lead time of 7 days.
Right.
So because it sees you will run out in 3 days, but it takes 7 days to get more, the system immediately flags this as a critical alert on your dashboard. Reorder today. You are technically already behind the curve, but it catches it before the gap widens into a disaster.
Exactly.
And then it goes a step further. It suggests ordering exactly 68 units to ensure a stable 2-month supply moving forward, and instantly estimates the cost for that specific order at 68 rands.
Now pause and just look at the sheer contrast between that and the manual scenario you just described.
It's night and day.
There is no gut feeling. There is no waiting for the Friday afternoon manual count to realize you are about to run out of stock. There is no hoping the sales rep remembers to mention it during a quick WhatsApp chat. It is a clean, mathematically sound directive that prevents a stock out on a fast-moving product, which actively protects your revenue stream.
It's incredibly elegant, but the system doesn't just play offense, right? It plays defense, too.
Yes, and defense is crucial.
Yeah, it doesn't just stop you from running out of the popular stuff. It actively stops you from hoarding the slow stuff. The text mentions it features this overstock alert that basically acts as a financial guardrail.
And for businesses struggling with tight margins, that defense is arguably even more important for cash flow than the offense.
Really?
Absolutely. The overstock alert sits right on the main dashboard and flags any single item that is sitting at more than 3 times its current monthly sales volume.
So, if your daily velocity shows you are selling, say, 10 steel bolts a month, And the system scans your inventory and sees you have 40 just sitting there. Boom, red flag.
Boom, you are officially hoarding.
Wow.
It forces total visibility. It highlights the trapped cash before it becomes a terminal problem. When a business owner sees that red flag pop up, they can take immediate action.
Like what?
Well, they can hold off on ordering any more related items from that supplier. They can run a targeted strategic promotion to clear that specific stock out of the warehouse. They can bundle it with a fast-moving item.
Oh, right. Get creative with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The point is, they are making these decisions while the stock still has some value, before the cash is permanently locked away in completely obsolete goods. It provides live visibility across every single product line, completely eliminating that awful month-end surprise.
Now, whenever we talk about hyper-optimized tech systems like this, algorithmic forecasting, live dashboards, dynamic lead time integration, there is usually this unspoken assumption that it requires a massive enterprise budget.
Of course.
Yeah.
It sounds expensive.
Right. You picture millions of rands, a dedicated team of software engineers, and like a year-long integration process that forces you to shut down the warehouse. But a major point in this analysis is the democratization of this technology.
Which is absolutely vital, because South African small and medium enterprises simply do not have massive enterprise-level budgets, or IT departments for that matter.
Right.
If the solution to the problem costs more than the problem itself, it isn't a solution, it's just another burden.
Exactly. So instead of a monolithic software installation, cloud-based systems like OneFinForce operate as a unified business operations platform. The source notes it starts at like 600 rands a month with a 7-day free trial.
It's highly accessible.
Very. And it connects inventory, purchase orders, sales, shipments, and cash flow all in one accessible place. You don't need a single spreadsheet. By making real-time algorithmic inventory management accessible via the cloud, it completely levels the playing field.
It really does.
It allows the small, independent Johannesburg hardware store to operate with the exact same supply chain precision as a massive multinational logistics hub.
And the downstream effect of that precision is immense. It stabilizes the entire business. The result is exactly what the data promises.
Yeah.
No more stockouts on your fast movers, no more cash trapped in slow-moving overstock, and purchase orders replaced at the exact right time in the exact right quantity. It fundamentally removes the emotion from purchasing and replaces it with pure execution.
So what does this all mean for you, listening to this right now? Why should you care about hex nuts, daily sales velocity, and reorder algorithms?
It's a fair question.
Because the core lesson here goes way beyond wholesale distribution in South Africa. Whether you are running a physical store, whether you are managing digital resources for a corporate team, or honestly, even if you are just trying to organize your own personal life and finances, the fundamental principle remains exactly the same.
Absolutely.
If you make your decisions based on historical fear and gut feel, rather than real-time data and actual current velocity, you are always going to end up with trapped energy, wasted space, and locked-up resources. Operating blindly, driven by the fear of scarcity, will always cost you more in the long run than building a system to see clearly.
That is the incredibly practical day-to-day takeaway. But, and I love thinking about this whole discussion on algorithmic precision raises a much larger, almost philosophical question based on the realities we've discussed.
Oh.
Well, we established that the environment creates extreme volatility, right? Load shedding, currency fluctuations, supply chain hiccups. These things fundamentally alter demand patterns overnight.
Right. They scramble everything.
Now, systems like OneFinForce are brilliant, precisely because they use real sales velocity data to predict exactly what to order and when. They optimize your capital perfectly for the world as it exists today.
Right. The algorithm looks at the exact current pace of sales and trims all the fat. You carry exactly what you need and nothing more.
But here's the provocative thought for you to mull over. If a highly predictive system relies purely on recent sales velocity to tell you exactly what the future holds, what happens when an entirely unpredictable external crisis hits tomorrow? A true black swan event.
Oh, wow. I see where you're going.
If the entire national power grid shifts, or a brand new global supply chain crisis erupts overnight, historical velocity, even recent velocity from yesterday, suddenly means absolutely nothing.
The algorithm is flying blind.
Exactly. When the algorithm trims all the excess stock to free up your cash, it also removes your physical buffer against total chaos. So does hyper-optimized technology make a business perfectly efficient? Or does stripping away all that manual gut feel buffer actually make it deeply vulnerable to events that no algorithm has ever seen before?
Wow. Efficiency versus resilience.
Exactly.
That is a brilliant tension to leave off on. You optimize to perfection, but you lose the safety net of imperfection. It really makes you rethink what you are looking at.
It really does.
Next time you walk past a warehouse or a stock room, or even just look at the packed shelves in your own garage or pantry, remember? Abundance isn't always what it seems. Sometimes it's just a whole lot of trapped potential waiting for a better system. And sometimes that trapped potential is the only thing standing between you and an empty shelf. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.